Okay, we're on air. It is Thursday, February 22nd. Thanks all for joining. This is a meeting to talk about community outreach for Backdrop CMS. First on our agenda, we wanted to talk about things that we're working on backdropcms.org. We have nearly completed all of the changes that were required for our new homepage design. There's a couple of little leftovers for that, including adding the new Try Backdrop page with different ways that people can install and set up Backdrop on their local site as well as on remote hosts. And one final change to the menu requires a new top-level page for plugins or add-ons or extensions or whatever you want to call them. And then we're also going to start fixing the module theme layout problems with backdropcms.org, and that includes making the search better at returning the result you want, implementing the actual designs for those search pages, integrating screenshots and slideshows of multiple screenshots if possible, and those things will require changes to Backdrop as well, the way that info files are managed, etc. So hopefully we'll get some of those changes to Backdrop core into the 1.10 release, but we will be kind of working on that in conjunction with the website to make sure those things work together. Blog posts on the website. We currently have one of the folks from DDEV working on a blog post announcing the fact that DDEV now includes native Backdrop support. So just like Lando, you can use Lando as a local development environment. You can spin up a Backdrop site. DDEV now has that same functionality. And they're going to be putting out a blog post. They're writing it now on backdropcms.org. So as soon as that gets done, I'll go ahead and publish it. We also have some news about Software Freedom Conservancy. We're getting on board with them, and we're going to end up having a couple of blog posts about that. One coming from Nate about removing conflicts of interest or possible collusion in the project management committee, and then another one about announcing joining the Software Freedom Conservancy, and then we'll probably do a third one when we're ready to accept tax-deductible donations via nonprofit as a driver for getting more people to contribute to Backdrop. I have a bunch of websites that are about to be launched that are beautiful, and so I'm hoping to add them into the showcase site, and a couple of them have some fairly tricky things that I thought might make interesting case studies. So hopefully I will have the time to write a little case study blog post about two of those sites as they go into the showcase section. So I've got a little mental note here to do that. We also have been approved sponsorship from Fastly in the same way that Fastly is sponsoring Drupal and providing CDN services for Drupal.org. They're expanding their open source and nonprofit sponsorship area in 2018, and Backdrop's one of the projects that they have agreed to bring on board. So I'm working with their community and open source manager to get us set up in the same way, which I think will be really good. And then we're going to try and come out with some co-branded materials, which means we'll have a blog post that says that Fastly sponsored us, and Fastly will have a blog post that says that they're sponsoring us. I'm not sure if that blog post on Fastly's side will only mention Backdrop or if it will mention Backdrop as well as maybe 5 other projects that they're sponsoring at the same time. It'll really depend on timing on that. But we should have some good news in that front, which might reach out to some people outside of the Drupal world who are maybe interested in Fastly, don't know which CMS to choose, and might land on Backdrop that way. So I think that's a really good tool for reaching outside our existing audience. And then, of course, there's other things we always want in the blog. Community spotlights would be great. I think Tom has a couple of people he's hoping to interview for that. And anything else anyone wants to write into the blog, if you have a user account on backdropcms.org, you should have permission now to create a blog post. I think that might not have been set up that way beforehand. So if you have something you want to share with Backdrop community, you can do it. We check all unpublished content at least weekly to try and schedule those and get them out. Another thought, I just had a thought about blog posts that, well, it's gone. I was just going to add another bullet, and then I totally forgot. Anyway, it might come back. we'll see. Okay, so we recently sent out a newsletter announcing Backdrop 1.9. Our next newsletter is hoping to announce the Suffer Freedom Conservancy partnership, and that should be our March newsletter. So as soon as we have a blog post about that, we can kick it over to the folks at FAFSA Interactive to help us draft a newsletter. But if we have anything else interesting that's going on in the Backdrop world, it might be nice to include that in the newsletter as well. So either sponsorship by Fastly could be something that could go as a footnote in there, or DDEV adding support for Backdrop could go as a footnote in there. Anything else cool we think people need to know about, they might not have learned about via Twitter or via our blog, we can put in the newsletter. So we'll just see what comes out when in terms of getting those added. And then ideas for videos. There's something that came up in the training that we always show off to people that is super compelling that I wanted to make a video on, and that was how to make an unbranded page in Backdrop. It's something that's really hard to do in Drupal, but really easy in Backdrop. And I thought that might make a nice little 5-minute or less video that would be great for showing off the layout system, which is something that people aren't going to be familiar with. So that was my idea for doing a quick video that might be suitable for sharing on YouTube or plugging into our YouTube channel. But of course, if anyone makes any videos on Backdrop, we definitely like to aggregate those into our channel. We have a couple of different categories. One of them is a tutorial category, so if anyone is doing anything particularly cool or interesting and wants to show us how we do it, we can do that. We also have featured presentations, so if anyone's doing a presentation at any given event and they want to have it recorded, or they do have it recorded, and whether they want to or not, if they want to have it shared, we can aggregate that into our YouTube channel. And then there's one for weekly meetings, so if you want to watch meetings later, you can find those there too. But I think the tutorial videos are going to be even more beneficial than the weekly meeting videos. So if anyone wants to create those in any language, we would appreciate that. We have a section here for Backdrop mentions. So if anyone writes anything on the internet about Backdrop, blog posts, forums, whatever, we like to aggregate those links onto backdropcms.org. In recent days, I think the only thing we need to add is the DDEV blog post, which I have and I can link that up. I don't know if we got an email out about Backdrop 1.9, but that might be good to send to the PHP weekly newsletter. If we haven't done it already, I'll check and see if I emailed them last week. I'm not on that newsletter, so I don't remember, but maybe I can send info too. Another thing we have going on right now, which is pretty cool, is Hacking Culture, the podcast, is something that Matthew Tift from Lullabot is working on. We had a recent episode with Tom Grandy, and what Matthew Tift is trying to work on right now is interviews with just regular old people who are interested in contributing to open source in some way. And so we have a lot of people in Backdrop who don't consider themselves developers or core developers who are still super involved in the project. And so I've been giving Tom, well, I gave Tom's name to Matthew. I'm going to be giving some other people's names too. Matthew might reach out to you and ask if you want to do an interview for his podcast. Feel free to say no if you don't want to. But I thought it would be great to kind of highlight some of our contributors via that podcast that might not normally be featured. Also, if you consider yourself a normal person and you want to be involved in Backdrop and you think your story would be interesting, you can definitely reach out to Matthew Tift too. He's looking for more people to put into that series. Or if you want to contribute to anything else too, anything open sourcey. I don't know what else is going on. in the outside world, if anyone hears of anything going on with Backdrop, you can definitely create mention posts on backdropcms.org as well. I think anyone who's logged in can add a link there. So if anyone sees that, feel free to create those as necessary. And then next section here is events. Nate, do you want to start on a recap of Drupal Camp Florida Drupal Camp?
Sure. Yeah, we had a pretty good camp there. The camp itself was really pretty excellent, fairly well attended, and well organized. We did a backdrop training on Thursday, I think it was, before the camp, which was sparsely populated, but those that attended were very enthusiastic about backdrop. We also had Mark, who had attended a meeting just prior to Drupal Camp Florida, actually flew in specifically to attend the camp just for our training, which I think might be a precedent setter there. People actually going to camps because Backdrop is there. That was really exciting for us. So the overall training went really well. There aren't any videos of the training, although we did get a video of the session, as always. And so we gave a session on Sunday that was the standard backdrop talk, and that went really well. And again, like getting people in the room is always the trickiest part of these camps. But then once they're in the room, convincing them of Backdrop's purpose and place is actually really pretty straightforward. So that went really well. And if you guys end up watching the video later, you'll see that the whole thing went really well up until the very end, where we tried to do the config import onto Pantheon. And then that failed because of a security update to Firefox. Now it gives a warning when it downloads tar.gz files sometimes. And so it was a Firefox problem, not a Backdrop problem that caused my config import to fail. Well, anyway, it's still a good video. The session kind of keeps evolving, and our messaging keeps becoming more and more solid. Jen noted that we got some applause mid-session, like people interrupted and said, "Can you stop for a second? Because we want to applaud." So that was good. Let's see. Yeah, overall, a really pretty good camp. Jen, do you have anything that I missed that you want to bring up?
No, I mean, I think the best thing, the thing I found most exciting is that after the training, I was kind of joking and said, tell all your friends, but then our training attendees did go around and tell all their friends the whole rest of the camp, which I thought was really great. So I ended up having some really great conversations with people who wouldn't have normally considered Backdrop on Saturday and Sunday, coming up and asking questions about it. So I do think, having people who are not us go around and explain the value of Backdrop is super helpful. And so if you are a fan of Backdrop, telling your friends is really, really helpful for us. So it's the main takeaway for me. Other events coming up, March seems to be a very big month for Drupal camps. There is Mid Camp, which is in Chicago, March 8th through 11th. The Nerd Summit, which is in the Northeast, March 17th and 18th. And Sam Camp, which is in San Diego, March 22nd to 24th. So if you are jealous of all of the fun that we had in Florida, where it was sunny and warm in the middle of winter, and we met lots of great Drupal friends, there are a bunch of other Drupal events coming up in March that you can attend, hopefully somewhere near you. Or, go to Sand Camp in San Diego, where it's nice and warm if near you is cold. So yeah, lots of stuff coming up. And as other events get Backdrop sessions, they will appear on the backdropcms.org/news/events page. We have one right now, Drupal Camp Utah is in May. I know there's another few in April that will probably be added shortly as well. So it's a good place to find out where you can learn more about Backdrop in person. That's all I have for today's agenda. But Nate, there was something we were talking about before the meeting started that we said we should talk about during the meeting, but I've forgotten what it is. Do you remember?
No, I just remember we were talking about Florida. So
there was something else. It was like, I don't remember either. Well, in half an hour, we're going to have another meeting. It'll be a meeting specifically for development tasks, the things that they're working on for Backdrop. And if I remember what that was, and it was not Florida, which we've already covered, we'll talk about it in the development meeting. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Okay, well, thanks guys for watching this. We've got a couple of live viewers, and Gregory, I know you had to run. If you watch this later, thank you for joining earlier, and we will see everyone in half an hour.
Bye.
Bye.